Best guitar teacher I ever had gave me the tools to no longer need them. We'd meet on a Saturday afternoon in his funky apartment on Queen Anne Hill in Seattle. We spent about 4 or 5 years together. After turning me on to a whole lot of folk blues fingerpickers from the first half of the 20th century, he gave me the kind of lesson one day that could almost sound offensive to an outside observer. He taught me nothing. He said, "Pretty much anything I send you home with now, you're going to be able to play. So instead of that, figure this out and show it to me at the next lesson." He made a really lo-fi copy of a Merle Travis recording, put it on a cassette tape, and sent me home. What he was doing was developing my ears through a process of on-the-job training. And when I got to college and had actual ear training classes, I watched other students struggle and falter to hand anything in at all when they were assigned to transcribe a piece of music. I chose Albert Lee's solo off of the tune Fun Ranch Boogie from the album Speechless. He's one of my favorite guitar players and absolutely brilliant, but just figuring out what Albert was doing and writing it down was pretty easy. John Miller is the reason that I was able to get transcription work later on for hire, even though when I took those jobs it was strictly for money, because my passion was really in playing the guitar, not writing it down. The lasting thing that he gave me was a springboard to begin growing exponentially as a guitar player. At the start of this video, I played a Chet Atkins lick from the tune Backwoods off of the album Mr. Guitar. Now what if you don't even like Chet Atkins? It doesn't matter because the lessons are universal. Chet had a capo on the 3rd fret or was tuned up on the session, maybe some combination of the two. First things first, you got to figure out the key center. What key is this lick or tune in? From there, you can go to work. The recording is in the key of C, but to keep it simple for right now, we'll look at it with no capo in standard tuning, and that'll put it in the key of A. In the left hand, the lick starts out with an A6 chord formation between the 11th fret of your 4th and 3rd strings and the 10th fret on your 2nd string. The high E string is played open. Then, with your fingers in the same location, keep everything the same as before, except on the 4th string. Drop that note back just 1 fret. That will form a D9 chord. Okay, so the first universal lesson. Chords are just shapes. Shapes might remain the same, but the sounds will change depending on where those shapes are played on the fingerboard. The D9 chord looks like if you took a cowboy D chord, lifted your fingers up, and moved that shape. Then Chet plays the A chord. But the shape is that of a Melbass C moved way up the neck. He follows things up with a jazz chord, E7 flat 9 with a 13 on top. For that chord, you want to put your 3rd finger on the 11th fret of the 5th string, your pinky on the 12th fret of the 4th string, 2nd finger on the 10th fret of the 3rd string, and then lay your index finger across the 9th fret on the top 2 strings. The lick ends with a descending A major pentatonic lick. Now, strictly for fingerpickers who want to learn to actually play this, I'm going to spend about 60 seconds breaking this down in the right hand specifically. If you don't want to play the lick itself and just want the greater lessons, feel free to skip ahead. In the right hand, the pattern starts out with a backwards roll. It's a triplet rhythm, and it goes middle finger, index finger, and thumb on the right hand on strings 2, 3, 4. It's moving backwards. Then, use your ring finger to articulate the open E string way up top, and then finish the pattern by skipping the 2nd string. Don't play anything on it at all. Don't pluck it at all. Skip, go to the 3rd string and use your index on that, and then finish on the 4th string with your thumb. That's the roll. That's the pattern. Repeat it for the D9 chord, and then repeat it again for the return to the A6 chord. When it goes to the A chord and then the E7 flat 9 chord, it's just a basic strum. Low, high, like this. On the final A major pentatonic run, I just grip the thumb pick as though it were a straight pick and default into alternate picking. Now for the second universal lesson. At the start of the lick, listen to the harmonic motion. The term harmonic motion just means when and where the chords change. For instance, when the chord changes from A6 to D9, that's harmonic motion. In this case, the harmonic motion is created by changing nothing more than one note only. I go into more detail about chords and harmony in a module on the website at fretboardplayground.com. But to keep this really simple for right now, the gist of it is that when I'm working, I'm listening for the simplest possible explanation. If it's chords, I'm listening for whether all, some, or only one part of that chord moves. If it's a single note solo or passage, then I'm listening for intervals, patterns, or anything familiar to my ears. For instance, identifying the sound of a major pentatonic scale becomes pretty simple after associating that sound with the lick in My Girl, or for that matter, Jimmy's licks over Like a Rolling Stone at Monterey, when the chords change from A to E7 flat 9 13. See how the note on the first string never changes. You also hear that that never changes. The rest of the notes move, but not the one on top. So the third universal lesson is don't make this any more complicated than it needs to be. If something doesn't move, you don't need to figure it out twice. If you were to visualize chords and melodies the way that they would appear on paper, even if you're not writing it down on paper, chords would be vertical stacks of notes, one on top of the other, whereas melody lines would be a horizontal succession of notes, one after the other after the other. If it's a melodic passage, try listening for patterns, intervals, scales you might be familiar with, even cliches. Cliches are not bad. Everybody uses them. Chet Atkins listened to Les Paul and you can hear it. B.B. King loved Lonnie Johnson and T-Bone Walker and you hear it. Jimi Hendrix sounded like Albert King sometimes. So if it's single note passages, listen for all that stuff. If it's a chordal passage, listen for each note in the chord. Those are called the voices of the chord. Sometimes one voice might move, but the others might stay the same. Or maybe all the voices move at the same time. Jimi Hendrix, Castles Made of Sand, parallel motion. Maybe one voice moves down while the other voice moves up. You got Jerry Reed. When it comes to absorbing any kind of musical language and driving that information deep into your subconscious and hands, just figuring it out, which frankly is the way that most of our heroes learned, and watching your hands on the fingerboard in order to visually cement those shapes is absolutely huge. When you start developing practical hands-on experience and real-world ear training through a process of doing this, your hands will follow. Give it a while, don't expect it to come overnight, but your hands will follow. So the next time that you're tempted to reach for a tab, or for that matter, open up your email client and send me a note asking for one, I'd really challenge you to try to figure it out on your own. You'll be amazed at how much your playing will begin to improve. Thanks for watching the video, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell if you're new to the channel. I'll see you again soon with more guitar tips, tricks, history, and everything that enamors us with our beloved instrument.